One question for you.
Hmm.
Would you ever date somebody who is a flat earther?
Mm.
The fuck?
Just need to
No.
know.
Why is that even a question? I'm offended.
This is Shana,
And Kris.
and we are Bad Queers. If you came out of the closet and got put in a box of stereotypes you don't belong to, then welcome to the Bad Queers Club.
All right, this week in Queer Urban Dictionary, I have cruising. Cruising is looking for sex partners in public places, typically by gay men. And this was taken from Pink News. A deeper dive is cruising has historically been a way for gay men to find intimacy and connection, especially when other avenues like gay bars or dating apps were not readily available or accessible.
All right, my Queer Urban Dictionary word of the week is camp. Camp is typically
Good old
refers
camp.
to an aesthetic or style that is exaggerated, theatrical, and often over the top. This was from the dictionary, so don't yell at me for this next sentence. I just took it from the dictionary. Sometimes bordering on bad taste, but celebrated for its audacity and theatricality.
Mm.
My sentence is that you typically hear people say, that's so camp. It can be seen as a form of self aware, ironic expression embracing the flamboyant style. Camp.
Camp. Good old camp.
Okay. I was sitting there. I was like, it's dictionary, leave me alone. We know that there's a bigger definition. We know that there's more historical stuff, but in general, camp. All right. Well, we have company here today. We are so excited to welcome Kihana Wilson. Kihana is an astrophysicist, PhD student, and science communicator, originally from Houston, Texas. As a Black queer woman scientist, she's built and managed a business and brand that seeks to uplift and inspire underrepresented, marginalized communities in science. Through what she calls unapologetic representation, she believes that positive, authentic, and intersectional representation is the first step toward breaking barriers in STEM for folks who are typically excluded from spaces in science and academia.
All right, Kiana, we are so excited to have you on the pod. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So let's get into your origin story. Where did you grow up? And what did that place shape you culturally, creatively, spiritually?
Absolutely. So I grew up born and raised in Houston, Texas. Very, very proud. I'm a native Houstonian. And some of the, rougher parts of town, Third Ward, Acres Homes, so historically Black, very poor. And so I came up, not having a lot of, options, if that makes sense. And I definitely shaped who I am. I definitely carry that with me in all the spaces I enter, everything I do. I'm very grounded in, how I came up and who I'm from and where I'm from. And I'll say just a lot of things changed when I found like this science thing. And it
Hmm.
really sort of I like to say it expanded my worldview beyond like Houston, but even like beyond my neighborhoods, beyond like what I could imagine myself doing in life. And so yeah,
Oh,
that's where I'm
and
from.
Houston, the Space Center right there. I would assume that that
Oh
had
yeah.
the impact.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, and in high school I got the opportunity to do a program there, basically in my backyard. So that was kind of amazing. It was in my backyard, but also for someone like me, it was also very far away. Like
Hmm.
a lot of kids from where I'm from don't really have opportunities to like really go and do programs like the one that I did. And so it's a really interesting dynamic of holding those two truths at one time. So yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of a lot of history there in terms of science and then also my own origin story, like being in this space in this city with so much history with space and NASA, but at the same time for a huge part of my childhood that being so far removed from everything that I was growing up with and that I was going through until I finally did stumble upon it. And so that's something I also keep in the back of my mind, like kids coming from where I'm coming from, like they don't always have sort of opportunities or access to things, even when physically they can be like right there. And that's why it's important for people like me for to go and make those connections and to show kids like, you can be in these spaces and you can do these things as well. And to establish that connection and that access. So yeah.
Stowe.
That's so cool, especially having those things there. I grew up near DC, so it's one of those where it's down the street and all of these monuments and all of this history, all these
Mm,
things that are there. And there were so many
exactly.
kids who would have been like, never been,
Exactly.
had not
Yeah.
gone.
Hmm.
Um, how, this is gonna be a dumbass question, but
No dumb questions.
it's gonna be Kris already knows this is gonna be a dumbass question. What was it like growing up in the neighborhood of Beyonce? How was that life? How,
Okay,
you
maybe I
know,
take back my no dumb
please.
questions.
I just want to
No,
know.
I'm
I just
kidding.
want to know what was it like? I'm just assuming
Did
that
you
you
say,
were a
did you
neighbor,
breathe the
that
same
you waved at
air?
her, that you probably went to the rodeo, maybe saw
Never in
her.
my life
Who
have I ever
knows?
met or seen Beyonce. I am not the biggest Beyonce fan. No hate. Definitely love a few of her songs, but I wouldn't say that I'm part of the Beehive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my experience of
Okay.
Houston is in no way tied to Beyonce.
Yeah, these are the things I had to
Sorry to
know because
disappoint.
it was gonna be one or the other. It was gonna be all or nothing, and that would have
Yeah.
switched the whole course of this interview. But in true fashion, I really want to know. Had to
You're
do
like,
it.
okay,
Had to do it.
line of
Just
questioning.
all right. Well, I have nothing else to ask. Thank you so much. No, but what was it like with your experience also growing up queer? Like, when was your queer awakening? Was it young? Did it happen after school? Did it happen during school? What was your
Yeah.
queer coming of age story?
So for a good chunk, well, I know these days people are finding it out super, super young. So I don't know how you guys contextualize young, but for me, for like a decent part of my childhood, I did not even have the space to. I was just in survival mode, so
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't think about none of that shit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was 15, and I don't know if that counts as young or not. And it
Yeah,
was
that's
at
young.
school. It was. I just noticed titties for the first time. And
As we
that's what
do.
I realized. It was weird. I was like,
Wait a
where are
second.
these feelings coming from? Wait a
You said
second. Why am I?
science is great,
Hold on.
anatomy is fantastic.
Yeah. Sorry to be so vulgar, but that's what it is.
No.
And that's when I started, I went to a like 5-day boarding school type of situation. So I had
Oh.
when I went to high school, I for the first time had like the space to explore, to be out of survival mode, if that made sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely played a role in sort of starting to explore myself. And from there, I wouldn't say like it was a big thing for me. It was kind of like, this is something I'm noticing. Let's
Hmm.
see where this goes. And I was like, okay, I'm a gay bitch. I guess that's what it is.
That's who
And
I am.
exactly. I will say I was a little concerned to tell my family. I was raised by my grandparents, and I think I told them, what was it, a few years after I found out, so maybe like 17 or something like that. My nana was like, "Oh, yeah, I knew," and you
Right.
know,
It's like, all right,
It's
Nana.
always
yeah.
it's always nanas. They
My
just know.
grandfather, on the other hand, that was a different story. It took some time. He came
Hmm.
around eventually, but at first it was,
Yeah.
yeah, very traditional, old school, a lot of like the toxic, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But he's cool now. And I think I like to define my like queer awakening in two phases. That was the first phase when I
Hmm.
realized, oh, I'm a gay bitch. Second phase was when I realized, oh, I'm masculine.
Mm.
So that took some time. That wasn't until uh I'd say first year college that I started coming into my masculinity and I started exploring that aspect of my identity.
Hmm.
And I will say I've had like growing up, I had this sort of fraught relationship with my gender presentation because I was misgendered a lot as a kid growing up, like
Hmm.
especially like early teenage years. So I had like a big afro. And for some reason, people like when they see afro on a black person, they default to like boy or man. And obviously,
Yeah.
I was young, my chest is on the smaller side. And so I will say, like when I was younger, that did sort of get to me on a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are all these things about, how we masculinize young Black girls, beauty standards when it comes to Black women. And I hadn't yet come into my masculinity, so I wasn't yet embracing that part of who I am, and I wasn't trying to be masculine at that point. So it definitely came from a place of like feeling like I wasn't beautiful or attractive, being misgendered at a young age before I sort of had the understanding of like gender and gender expression and those things. And then, I went through my little baby stud phase, the first year of college.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna rehash none of that.
Did you take a selfie in a sports bra in the bathroom?
Mini a selfie.
Okay.
He said
In poor
specifically in the
taste.
bathroom.
Yeah, in the bathroom.
There were selfies, yes.
Yes. What a
And
time.
in my uncle's snapbacks,
Yep.
poorly fitted t-shirts and
Hmm.
all that jazz.
Hmm.
Um, but
Check, check,
yeah,
check.
Yeah.
throughout college though, that's when I started, really getting a sense of style and I will say like that process was also coupled with doing a lot of work in terms of unpacking and learning about these intersections of Blackness and queerness and masculinity and gender presentation and just studying and observing and comparing to my own upbringing and what I was around when I was younger, like how masculinity on women and sort of presented itself,
Hmm.
thinking about the ways that it can be toxic and we can sort of perpetuate, toxicity in the queer community and transplant these like cis heteronormative ideas into like Black female masculinity in particular.
Hmm.
So I will say that something that I'm very, very proud of in terms of my queer journey is that learning and processing was always part of it from a young age. And
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm very proud to say I am not a toxic bitch. There's
You're like, I've never.
see over here because I've
Yeah.
done the work. I put in
Okay.
the work and I
Yeah.
continue putting in the work. Um, and so I think that just allowed me to sort of blossom in a really beautiful way in terms of my masculinity and how I carry it and how I carry myself and
Mhm.
how I share it with other people and how I interact with other people. Um, and so, yeah.
That's awesome. Do you think your love of science and just critical thinking, period, like helped you with that, like hand in hand, like as you're learning things in
Yeah.
science, you're also like, I don't
Yeah.
know if this actually fits right for me with
Yeah, and
masculinity.
not even just science, but like as you said, like the critical thinking,
Hmm.
just a love of learning in general and studying.
Hmm.
And wanting to understand things.
Hmm.
And definitely allowed the um the process of like exploring all those things in terms of gender and masculinity and queerness and all those things
That's
made it
awesome.
so much easier for me in ways that I understand um is a level of privilege and not
Hmm.
everyone has that just so the privilege of higher education and college and being in these spaces is that it exposes you to so many things, perspectives, lived experiences outside of those that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And so I had my own that I was carrying, like growing up in the hood, like as a Black girl, whatever, seeing like all these, you know, manifestations of like Black masculinity,
Hmm.
and then coming to college and being able to explore and see other, expressions of masculinity outside of the ones I grew up seeing,
Hmm.
and being able to like contextualize that within like gender theory and literature and those things that not everybody has access to from the places I'm from, right? And so I think that's definitely like a privilege, I will say. And so I try not to judge too harshly. If you're being harmful though, we're gonna sit down and have a
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Yeah.
And part of, what I carry as like a science communicator and just considering myself an educator, especially like to Black and brown people and to my communities is being that lifeline and bringing that the access that I have to these things,
Hmm.
my people, and introducing new ways of thinking about things.
That's beautiful. You are not only a great communicator, but it sounds like you also you recognize a privilege that you've
Yeah,
had in those areas, but also have the grace for the Black and Brown community, where you, again, we might not have access to that. We might not have the same experiences. Some
yeah,
people even go to college and still have like a really siloed experience. So,
yeah.
knowing that's important, that you have to like communicate with grace is important. I think that's cool.
Hmm.
I do recognize I have a lot more patience than a lot of folks. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. I really appreciate the breakdown of how you've come into your masculinity as well, and can only imagine what that experience is like carrying over into your work,
Mm,
because you are being representation every single day in a field that has
yeah.
not been accessible, let alone taught to
Yeah.
folks who look like us,
Mhm.
to know that this could be a goal that they have. And so, what are some of the ways that you have embraced being that representation, obviously with your content, obviously with the information that you share, which is also gold, and we will get into that more. But just for you personally, like, how have you taken that and embraced it moving forward? And what if some of those engagements look like with people who appreciate you taking this step?
Mm. Um, so you're definitely right. Like I am representation by literally just breathing and being present in these spaces, whether I speak or not.
Mhm.
And I think, obviously you look at me, you just know, right? You just know. And
They are
so
definitely running to you for the diversity shot. And
Oh, yeah.
Kiana, you
But
all right?
on
You
the
busy?
flip side of that, it makes people who need to see that, and if there's someone in a room who isn't feeling as confident, who's feeling like they don't belong, who's feeling like they sort of need to make themselves small in order to stay in the room, there's so much power in literally just seeing someone like me step into a space and step into it confidently. So another huge part of my um queer journey in terms of the masculinity is how much self-security and self-confidence I've developed in doing all of the hard work to like work through trauma and also unlearn like a lot of these systems, and to really think hard about how these things manifest in our lives,
Mhm.
and to know that there's so many ways to be and to exist in masculinity, and therefore having the freedom and the power to choose how you want to show up. And so I will say, like, I'm very proud of the work that I put in to be as confident and secure in myself. And that definitely shows whenever I step into a room. And that's also, it makes the representation so much more powerful because of the spaces that I'm in. And there are not a lot of people who look like me already. So when I step into a room already, it's like hyper visible, right? But also I step into it so confident, so self-assured, because on one hand, you have to be to exist in these spaces, right? To not let all of the microaggressions and the systems of like exclusion and the elitism sort of weigh down on you.
Mhm.
And so I will say, um, just knowing that and how much power there is in how I carry myself, when I enter these spaces, and knowing how much it can inspire other people, something I'm very cognizant of and that I hold very dearly, and I don't take for granted. And so that's definitely a way that my queerness shows up in these spaces, just physically, just being confident in how I speak, how I carry myself, my mannerisms, not being afraid to like, throw in a little swag if I'm like giving a presentation or if I'm talking to like some senior scientists or whatever. Because it really shows people who may be watching that you may not know who are watching, who are taking notes, and maybe feel a little bit more at ease or inspired by that, for sure.
I love it. Do you feel, I guess, in the last 5 years, so, well, yeah, 5 years since 2020, that you've had to code switch less, or or have you always shown up, as yourself in these spaces? I know you got to like, to a certain extent, play the
Right.
game in some cases, but like, yeah. How do you feel about the last 5
This is
years?
a question I've gotten a couple times. And I'm realizing I'm still working through a little bit of how I want to sort of contextualize it, but but like my motto is unapologetic representation, right? You may have seen that on my bio, but I part of that what I feel is showing up as yourself and without making yourself overly palatable, without making yourself too small. But it's also like the smaller intentional ways that you choose to show up. And I'm very intentional about this in my online space too. Like if I'm making a science video, I'll throw on a do-rag just cause. Cause
Yeah.
how often do you see a stud wearing a do-rag break down these really complex scientific ideas in a way that is engaging? You know, like
Yeah.
that's just powerful, you know? Like how often do you hear like a Black queer woman like in the same sentence like throw some slang down while also like talking about science, right?
Mhm.
It makes the science more approachable for a lot of our folks. It makes it more relatable, and it also makes it less intimidating. And it
Yeah.
makes you think, oh, damn, she doing that. She making it look good. Maybe I can too, you know?
Hmm.
And so in terms of like code switching, I definitely treat you got to in some ways, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like for me in a lot of these spaces, um, I am intentional not to do it too much because
Yeah.
again, it comes back to how I want to present myself. And it's also not just for people who look like us to feel inspired, but to show these like white straight men or the
Hmm.
same sort of overrepresented people in sciences. Yo, somebody who looks like me, who moves like me, who talks like me can be in these spaces and be
Yeah.
you're equal and can
And
talk science
expand their
and be a
world.
science. Exactly. And so code switching for me, it's not just like how you speak. Like you gotta when you're in like professional spaces, there's some level of professional language you have to use, but it's also like how you carry yourself,
Hmm.
how you know your body language, sometimes how you dress. So like I don't go to work or whatever in like a button up and slacks every day.
Yeah.
Like when I'm like in a meeting, like you know, people can be like really uptight, but I can be there kind of chilling, lean back, you know? So
Hmm.
I feel like it's a lot of these like smaller things that add up,
Hmm.
that you know are a part of how you present yourself. And I feel like sometimes I code switch into, you know, um, I like to say sometimes my online, you know, persona is the Astro Stud, right? And so
Hmm.
sometimes I like to say I'm code switching more into the stud and less the physicist part.
Got it.
So yeah.
It's funny. Well, tell us the origin story of Astro Stud.
Yeah. So yeah, going back a little into like growing up not having any, you know, representation whatsoever. Like when I came across this science, I think I was 9 or 10. I read a children's
Casual.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, in science, there's like this trope, like everybody, oh, I fell in love with the stars when I was a kid, and that's why I'm a scientist. And that's a little bit of my story, but it's also very different because for me, when I found this, like again, not a lot of kids like me just up and decide one day they want to be an astrophysicist. You know, a lot of we I didn't have representation of any type of scientist growing up. Not until I got to high school did I see the first Black woman physicist. Um, and what was I gonna say? Um, I'm blanking.
9 or 10, you were 9 or 10
Oh
Yeah.
when
yeah, you were
you,
reading a book. That was how
yeah.
you came across.
Yeah, yeah. And so I read this book and I realized it again, like ex expanded my worldview, and I was like, oh shit, this spaceship is kind of cool.
Hmm.
And then I just went down a rabbit hole, just studying, like reading books, watching the Science Channel, watching documentaries, and I would keep like little notebooks where I wrote notes down and shit, and I
Hmm.
just like fixated upon it. And part of that fixation, I feel like came from the fact that I was having such a tough time. Like, my childhood was rough in a lot of ways. My environment was rough in a lot of ways. And a lot of it felt suffocating a lot of the time. It's just as a poor Black girl from the hood, like the world tells you, you don't have that many options. It
Mhm.
boxes you in really fast. Like these are the statistics, and you're probably gonna fall here and not do much else. And so discovering astrophysics and then finding out, oh shit, you can make a career out of doing this. Thinking about space shit all day. Hell yeah, sign me up. Um, and so like I just latched onto that, and I feel like a reason for that is because I could suddenly see myself beyond my circumstances, and I can imagine myself beyond like the same restrictive narratives society sort of tried to box me into.
Mhm.
Because and like in a lot of ways, like my limit went from like Third Ward, Acres Homes, Houston, Texas, to literally like the edges of the universe overnight. And I
Mm.
was like, can't nobody on earth gatekeep shit. They can't box me into anything. Because now I have access to the entire fucking universe, you know? And so that was like a really powerful lifeline for me throughout my childhood, grade school, up through it got me up to college. And that is, oh, that's what I wanted to say. Like, that is what makes my story like different from like this trope that you hear from a lot of, scientists in my field. Oh, I fell in love with the stars when I was a kid. But for me, it was literally life-changing. Because, it was not often that kids from my background get into this stuff. And it's not easily accessible. Like I had to work hard to make this shit a reality.
Mhm.
I didn't have any sort of guidance. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I'm gonna be the first person in my family to become a doctor, get a PhD. Like my family could not help me that like
Yeah.
so I had to from a young age I had to learn to like do things on my own, be super self-motivated, disciplined, hyper independent, like um initiate things on my own,
Mhm.
go out and find opportunities or advocate for myself and ask people who could provide access for help. Like tell them, I went to teachers, I was like, this is what I want to do. I found this resource, yada yada yada. Can you help me get access to it? You know? And people saw that, they saw the potential and they wanted to invest in me. And I don't play around with none of that bootstraps rhetoric around here. Like
Mhm.
I recognize like I am the exception, right? I
Mhm.
don't like that Black excellence, like I have a very fraught relationship with that because there's so many kids that I grew up with that were bright and had so much potential, but for various reasons, um, they didn't get the same attention. They didn't get the
Yeah.
same access to resources. Maybe the way that they coped with their trauma was less palatable than the way that I coped with mine. And so it made people like teachers more willing to help me and invest in me than those kids. And so they went down another path that I could have easily gone down, you
Mhm.
know? And so that's another thing that when I say like I carry my background with me, that's one of the things, right? I'm very grounded in that. And that's why I care so much about giving back and being this lifeline to my community, right? Because um, I am the exception, but I don't want to be the exception. I want to see more of us in these spaces, right? I ain't gatekeeping shit over here, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know? Um, so yeah, I went off on a whole tangent. I forgot
No,
what
that's
the original question
inspiring though.
was.
It
That's
is.
inspiring. It
Yeah.
is.
And it's a solid awareness that you have as well. Like with listening to you speak on it and knowing the path that you're paving, but really reaching back and being like, hey, grab that
Yes.
person behind you and the person next to
Yep.
you to make sure they
Mhm.
all
Yep.
make it in here.
Yep.
Keep this door open
Mhm.
with also having that align to like your own personal goals and
Mhm.
being able to grow and build in this space and be motivated to learn and to not be at least from what you're giving us. I know that there's going to be stressful times, but it's not showing stress. It's showing lots of joy and lots of excitement around what you're learning. But I know that everything that you study and can study in a PhD ain't that's not easy.
Oh, I
It's
remember the
not
original
easy.
question. I didn't even get to the real answer yet. God damn it.
I
So
was like,
how
you're
did
good.
what's the origin story of the Astro Stud, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that was the way background. So fast forward, I get to college, and you just mentioned like there are some things that are hard, and so yeah, that's where it starts. Like, that shit was hard, you know? Like I came from, a high school that wasn't that well resourced, coming into a university that was like really rigorous and like top university where like really smart kids with a lot of access and privilege growing up come to study. And
Hmm.
so when I got into like these intro physics classes where they had like years of tutoring or they took really advanced classes in high school that I didn't have access to, that I didn't take, it was hard. I definitely, the imposter syndrome, you hear that a lot. It was there. I dealt with that. And then I tried, I mentioned from a young age, I had to learn how to advocate for myself and ask for help and reach out. I tried doing that, reached out to professors, got like burned a couple times, being like, sorry, you just got to figure it out. Because a lot of these systems, these, the scientific establishment, these academic systems aren't really set up with people like me in mind, people like us
Hmm.
in mind, with various like lived experiences and backgrounds. They assume you have a level of preparedness and preparation coming in that I didn't have. And so when they were presented with that, and I was like, yo, help a homie out. What can I do? And they're like, sorry. So that was hard. And then add on top of that, the fact that I was the only Black woman in my like major cohort, So there was also this severe like isolation. That by the time my second year came around, I was like, I hit a low point. Yeah, I was down bad.
Yeah.
Um, and like out of desperation, I tried to find other Black women in physics, and there were two at that time in the whole university. I reached out to them as like, yo, I'm struggling. Can we meet up like over coffee or something? Can we talk? They responded very fast. They said yes. They like kind of took me under their wing, and now like one of them now is like my best friend. Like we're tight.
Oh.
And like so I had to find that community and build it around myself, and I had to like establish support networks with like trusted professors and administrators and counselors who like cared about me, who would help me with like my figuring out my degree plan and all that stuff to make sure I was on the right track. And also just like moral, emotional support, right?
Hmm.
And so I definitely like that informs a lot of like the advice I give now for people and from my background or who like maybe experiencing similar things along their educational journeys, like building support networks, finding community, advocating for yourself, and also not giving up. Because, one thing I will say that I had that got me through that, even despite how hard it was at times, and despite like moments of like temporary self-doubt, is I had this like inner 9, 10-year-old Kiana who like discovered the universe at such a young age and like fell in love and was like, I'm an astrophysicist before I really understood what that meant. And I carry that with me throughout my entire life. So that was my guiding compass. And I had that strong identity and tie to like space and physics that was really hard to like break down, even when I was going through these really tough times. And so that's another thing that I like give advice to or give advice about is like find your why or find like that thing that motivates you, that fire under you. And so by the time I hit my senior year, I was severely burnt out. Burnout can be accelerated for people like like us from marginalized backgrounds, intersecting marginalized identities. So I was definitely feeling that. And for a long time, I had always known that I wanted to like give back in some way, and I wanted to inspire other folks like me in science. And so I had the idea for the Astro Stud for a while, just marinating on the back burner in my mind. And I for about a year, I was telling myself, "Oh, we're gonna do it eventually. We're gonna do it then. We're gonna do it now." And I was going through a lot my senior year. I got COVID. I was applying to grad programs. Was taking the hardest classes in my major. My mom, like RIP, she had a stroke, and so like I had to fly back home and like help support family a couple times during my senior year, which like put my classes in jeopardy. And so I thought I wasn't going to graduate on time at one point. So it was just a lot of shit happening. And for
Mhm.
some fucking reason, I decided this was the I was also pledging a sorority. It's another random thing I
Oh.
thought was the perfect time to do. And so for some fucking reason, I was like, this is the time to be a content creator.
Yeah.
And
Now or
that's
never.
literally it's now or never. So I launched the Astro Stud, and I came in with a very clear idea of my mission and my values. Like I wrote all that shit down. I have I'm very organized. I have a folder. I have what my purpose is for my online like brand as the Astro Stud. I have my values. I have, my target audience, how I want to inspire people. And so I went in knowing all of that. Um, and I knew because I'm such a unicorn. How many stud
Yeah.
physicists do you
I'll
know?
tell you, when you came across my feed, I was like, oh
Right?
my God.
So I knew I
Wow.
was gonna like reach some people, but I could not have imagined how fast that shit would explode. I could not imagine how much that would explode. And I like almost overnight, I had my platform was like huge, just like exponentially growing. And I realized like how starved people were for like the kind of representation that I could offer. It exploded really fast. And that's when I knew like, oh, this is worthwhile. Like this can be impactful. And also for me at that hard time, it was also like a nice outlet too. And it was very enjoyable. I felt a lot of purpose. It felt very fulfilling to do it, to like build this community of people who felt inspired. And I was having a lot of fun with it. And so that's how it started. And yeah, it's just been growing and growing since then.
Can you tell us about your specific love of cosmology and just like what it is for the folks that don't know what it is and just like what sparked your love of it?
Yeah. Um, So when I discovered astrophysics when I was young, I was most taken by cosmology, and like thinking about the universe on like the largest scales of space and time is how I like to phrase it. And so cosmology is like a branch of physics or astrophysics. Astrophysics is like a field that has like a large spectrum, right? So on the smaller side, in terms of like size, you can study things like the sun, like our solar system, like stellar physics, which is the study of stars. And as you move up the spectrum, like the subjects of your study become like bigger. So on the far end of the spectrum is cosmology. So you're studying the entire universe and everything in it.
Wow.
So that is what captured my imagination as a kid. It's just so fascinating. Like
Yeah.
thinking about
Limitless.
time and what time means, thinking about how gravity functions, thinking about like space literally expanding, like thinking about like one of the things that really, really fascinated me in particular was Einstein's conceptualization of gravity. So when we're taught about gravity in like grade school or whatever, we're taught Newton's idea of gravity, Isaac Newton.
Hmm.
But Einstein came along with his general theory of relativity, and he came in and he fucked everything up. He was like, nah, this how this shit actually works.
Oh,
And the way he conceptualized it was it's not a perfect explanation, but it's a very powerful analogy to help understand on a conceptual level. But imagine space as like a fabric. And so when you introduce a mass or a massive object like a star or a galaxy or whatever, it bends the fabric and it creates like this well, right? And gravity is what happens when you have a smaller object come into the gravitational like potential well, so the gravitational like um area of this larger object, and it starts, is being pulled in because of the way that space is bending, if that
hmm.
makes sense. And thinking about that in particular, like space being kind of like this physical entity that can bend, and it can control how other objects move in space. I was like, what the fuck? It was literally mind-blowing. And so that is like everything cosmology, still studying the origins of the universe, like the Big Bang Theory, not the TV show. And thinking about how like the universe has evolved, thinking about the large scale structure, which is a fancy term to describe how the universe is structured and organized on like the largest scales when you zoom out. In popular culture, there's a term for it called the cosmic web. And it's because when you zoom out and you look at like how galaxies are clustered and you look at how like dark matter works, it kind of resembles a spider web because you have like all these filaments and you have like dark spots and you have lighter spots. It's wild. It's wild as hell. But yeah, I'm an astrophysicist, but specifically I'm a cosmologist because that is the specific area that I specialize in, like studying the universe as a whole and studying things like how it evolved, studying like galaxy clusters, studying dark matter, dark energy being the thing that is expanding the universe and accelerating the expansion of the universe. So yeah, that's cosmology in a nutshell, I guess.
That. That's a solid
you.
breakdown.
Yeah.
Also, it's just out here
Right.
bending and snapping and just doing things in the universe. That's
Right?
that's
Very
all I could think. As soon as you said
Very
bent,
clear.
I was
Very
like,
clear.
look at that. We love to see it. Now, you've just given us you've just given us this wonderful breakdown of cosmology, but now we have to ask you some trash dating questions.
Please.
Just so you know, you've given us such good breakdowns, good descriptions. And now, before we head to our bad core opinions, have to give you some trash things.
Okay.
So, one question for you: would you ever date somebody who is a flat earther?
The fuck?
Just need to
No.
know.
Why is that even a question? I'm offended. No.
Immediate no.
Exist in the
What if
same
what if they checked a lot of your boxes, but
Yep.
They
and you
clearly ain't
didn't
checking
know?
enough.
What if you were
They clearly ain't checking enough.
what if now is this a filtering question for you? Because what if like y'all didn't even talk about it and like you were vibing with her and it was like, okay, you're a couple months in, and then she just
Right.
casually, she
Out of
ordered like a
nowhere.
well done steak and was like, you know what? I think the earth is
Because
flat.
listen. Hear me. Something that
Like
I
it's been
have.
good. It has been good to this point. Like
Perfect. Perfect until this point.
perfect. And then she just casually drops like, yeah, the earth's flat though. But
But is she serious or she just fucking with me?
she dead ass.
No, dead ass.
Like she's seen what you do because I know you're like, first off, come on.
Here's what I do.
Stuff. But what if she
Okay.
just like, for some reason, it just got past
It's just
the
like, no,
filters?
can't do it.
Yeah.
What I value in and in a relationship is someone who can match my intellectual freak, someone who stimulates me and challenges me, who I can have profound conversations with.
Intellectual
So
freak.
I imagine it would have been very
you heard it.
difficult for me to not have noticed this because for someone to be a flat earther, there are certain flaws in critical thinking,
Yeah.
and reasoning and uh yeah, so that
Yeah.
just it would reveal like a bigger issue and a bigger incompatibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's
That
probably
makes sense.
there are absolutely signs before. So I
Yeah.
feel like that wouldn't even make it that far because you would
So
find
the
out
gaps
before
would
then.
be clear.
Yeah.
And
Would you
people
even?
try, like actually talking to people, they bring up like, so the moon landing was faked? And they like when they
Man.
learn that like when they learn what I do,
Mm.
and I'm an astrophysicist, like people like have all kinds of questions. And, I welcome them, but people also like to like have their alien questions and their
Yeah.
conspiracy theory questions and kind of play with
Mm-hmm.
you. So in that way, I'm like kind of used to it. But usually it's like most people aren't that serious about it. Some people are,
Yeah.
some people are. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yep. I can imagine it like the same energy when men tried to argue women's sports with someone who is a women athlete, and they're just like, they're not making no money, they're not doing this, and they've done like 2.5 seconds of research, if
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine it is,
Yeah.
like that same energy coming to you.
Yeah. How has dating been? I mean, you were in Chicago for 5 years, you told us earlier, but like how has dating been for you in Chicago and now in Michigan?
So I was actually in a relationship for 5 years
Oh, okay.
that recently ended. So,
Got it.
um, unfortunately, I'm
Yeah.
on the market again, and I feel very hesitant to say that.
Welcome back. We welcome you with open arms.
And I've heard lots of things about the pool and how pissy it is. So, um,
It is.
I have not I've not had the opportunity to flex that until recently. There's a little something, something,
Mhm.
little talking, but
Okay.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see in the next few years, uh, how that
How
goes.
that goes. Are you
See,
open to long distance dating? Is there any like
Yeah,
what are
so
your
my relationship was long distance almost the entire time.
Oh
So
oh
wow. Okay.
wow.
yeah, that
Wow.
wasn't the reason that it didn't work
Hmm.
out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm open.
Yeah.
Honestly, again,
Okay.
the way that we really need to write the book on
We really do.
how queer folks manage long-term relationships,
Yeah.
We'll do
especially us. We just
it.
we just
We'll do
make
it.
it. We make it through.
Yeah.
We do the things. It's impeccable. So
I'll have more thoughts on dating when we get to the bad queer
Ooh.
opinion.
oh
Um,
well, well
Oh.
let's not
I'm
don't let
prepared.
me stop you. Let's
I'm
go ahead and
prepared.
be there. Let's go ahead and be there since we're talking about it. Because what type of bad queers will we be if we didn't have unpopular queer opinions? So, as you know, we had told you this earlier before, but welcome to Backward Opinions. This is one of our favorite segments of the show where you get to hear what we have to say. We get to hear what you have to say. Feel free to follow up, ask questions, pass judgment. It's a safe space until it's not, and we're going to have a good time with it. So, I will go ahead and start with my bad queer opinion. So, my bad queer opinion is that y'all bringing back up the astrology conversation with folks and how they're doing this because mainly because I have been out and about. It's summertime Chicago. I have been outside. I've been listening to the people. My wire has been working. And I have heard so many people say that specifically they are not dating people of certain astrological signs.
You're gonna love my opinion.
Okay,
Tell her
like,
why.
and they're just like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Especially the hate that I have heard for Leos, Geminis, and Pisces
Mm,
specifically. I'm
mm.
like, damn, what have they done? What has gone on? But honestly, y'all can't just weed out an entire group of
No,
people
it's ridiculous.
based
Yeah.
on their astrological sign. Like, y'all leave these people alone, okay? I could be standing next to an Aquarius person. Like one of my good friends, they were born the morning and I was born in the evening, the same day. And we are complete opposite people, complete different things.
Hmm.
And y'all can't just sit and be like down the shooting range of picking people and be like, ah, you're this, you're out. You're this, you're out. I feel like it's the balloon popping thing where it's like, hi, I'm Shana. I'm an Aquarius pop. You can't, don't do
It's going
that.
It's
nowhere.
absurd.
Stop doing that. Okay. Y'all are just coming up with all sorts of excuses instead of being able to just take the time to work through some stuff, ask some questions,
Yes.
and get to know people.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Agreed. You shouldn't use it as a filtering guide.
Like so
I feel like
quick.
there's a rotation of signs that like people will shit on. And like the ones you mentioned like are in vogue right now, but I feel like they've
Mm.
been rotating. Like I feel like it's almost seasonal where they're like, fuck Libra. I see more fuck Libras posts and I was
And
like,
Libras are
I'm
my
learning
favorite
something
people.
too. I
I'm
know,
learning
but
this.
first off, apparently the men Libras are on something else, but my dad
Oh,
was a men Libra. So I was like, okay, well maybe.
yeah.
But it's funny. It's like a seasonal thing where it's just like, especially when you're getting into your season, like people are like, man, fuck these Leos. And it's like Leo
Hmm.
season. So but yeah,
Wow.
don't use it as a, it's still like I always say, I think that there is some validity to some of it, but it's all environmental. It's all how you grew up, your experiences. There are some traits that are like, okay, that kind of lines up, but it's really not, it's you got to ask these questions. You got to get to know the person because how they grew up, their environment is
Mhm.
more of what shapes them and how they are. So, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Kris.
Well, my bad queer opinion, and I think it's actually like a oppressed person opinion, is that there's how do I say this?
Mm.
Some companies there has to be a standard to get my outrage. Okay. There has to be a standard. You can't just throw things out. And what I mean is American Eagle is not fly enough for me to care about them. Now, their ad was racist, but let me tell you something. In 2025, talking about American Eagle hurts my heart because always fuck them. I mean, I was a Hollister girl, but like they're just not fly enough for me to care about them. Like it's probably the most press they've ever got. I don't even remember there being American
Honestly.
Eagle commercials when we were growing up and it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so while yes, saw what they were doing with their ads, and there's a long history in this country and in this world of anti-black marketing and ads. I looked at American Eagle like, bitch, you tried it. Like y'all are so lame. Like it's lame altogether. Sydney Sweeney too, which is she's kind of the American Eagle of actresses. Like it's just like
Mm-hmm.
I can't care about either one of them, and I like hate that they're getting like this attention and this, all this stuff. Like I love that it's being checked because it was like a racist ad, but it's just like I don't know, some of these brands, you just not fly enough for my outrage. It's just not. Like American Eagle? Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
No, no, not you. Can't do it.
It is part of like a larger commentary in the way the country is going, though, in terms of
You see
eugenics.
it.
So the outrage for that part, I understand.
Yeah.
For the actual brand integrity, nobody gives a shit. That shit can burn down.
Oh boy.
So I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
And it's not, remember mall culture, remember when it was a bigger thing. So I just feel like outrage marketing is such a thing now, and they've shown like these last couple years that companies don't care about negative backlash. So like even peeping that is like, yes, check them, but I just hate that these like lowly brands and companies know that they can pull these things just to increase their sales and get right versus left, and people being like, I'm gonna buy these jeans because and it's just like, ugh, American Eagle, like, nah. So that's my bad queer opinion.
Love it. All
Kihana,
right,
what you
Kiana.
got?
All right. So back to this astrology shit.
Yeah. Tell them.
Mm, we're dragging it, dragging it. And it's back to what you said, about like people using it to preemptively judge people, to dismiss people, to invalidate people, but also to hide behind it and like eschew accountability for problematic behaviors and mentalities. It's like I'm a Libra, so that's just how, like, no, you're problematic. Own that and work on that. Um, and I will say, as an astrophysicist,
Mm, that was that was
I have the right, I reserve the right
Mm.
for a little bit of pettiness, because so often people confuse astrology with with astronomy or astrophysics, and so I have to clarify that constantly. Like one is a real science and one is not. Okay, okay. And so there's that aspect, but that's not my real beef with it. My real beef with it is just the way that people use it as a substitute for actual like human interaction and engagement and building like bonds with people. So like if you ask me out and want on a date and one of the first things you talk about or ask me about that's the topic of conversation is what my astrological sign is, I'm side-eyeing you now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want you to get to know me and to observe how I move and how I act, see if my actions back up my words, just give me the space and the time to show you who I am without coming in with these preconceived stereotypes that you project onto me from shit that's not even real again.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, that's definitely a huge part of it. And again, I try to give grace. It's very natural for us as humans to seek out patterns and to notice patterns. And I can understand, being so tied into astrology as like a defense mechanism. If you've been with like three Leos and they all tore your heart out and like did you dirty, drug you through the mud, I can understand if another Leo stepped to you and you'd be like, nigga, get the no, I'm not doing that
Not doing
again.
this again.
But a person could also be your person and be perfect for you and also happen to be a Leo,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because all it is these very generalized characteristics assigned to like symbols from what I understand. I have made it a point to not research. I am
From
a
what I
researcher.
understand.
I am
You're
a
like, I don't
researcher.
even.
But I've made it a point
Okay.
to not understand how this astrology shit works. I don't know what my big three are. Don't ask.
Uh,
Um, and so like these things like they're just generalized characteristics that you're applying to like huge like populations of people, but
Mm-hmm.
people are complex and diverse, and also people are just shitty in general,
yeah.
especially in dating. And so if you meet five Leos and they're all shitty, it could be just because people are shitty and they happen to be Leos, and
Yep.
not
Yeah.
because Leos are shitty.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but again, I try to give grace. And I don't. This is not to say like astrology shouldn't be a thing. People shouldn't practice it. I think it could be fun if that's something that you want to bond with
Mhm.
someone. It can be like a segue into like deeper conversations about like what you value in a relationship or whatever. I
Mhm.
just don't think it should be used as a substitute. And I actually get very irritated, and it is turn when people do that. So yeah, that's my
Agreed.
opinion.
I
My
love it.
very
A
strong.
big turnoff.
I love
Big
it.
turnoff. That's honestly like the perfect litmus test is if within like the first 5 questions that comes up.
Yes,
Mm.
yes. I hate to say it, I'm not gonna lie, but
Is it
it
a
is
red
a
flag?
nick. It's a nick,
Okay. I would imagine. Imagine you'd be like, all right.
which is very controversial in the lesbian community. And being an
It is.
astrophysicist, you can imagine the position that puts me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really
Uh,
And I think it's
is.
kind of cool that you could be like, so just so we're clear, it isn't real. But
yes.
You know?
like it's not
It can
actually
be
a real
petty,
thing.
just for
Yeah, it's
funsies.
actually not
Just
real.
for
Just
funsies.
you're like, just from a science point of view, I don't,
Yeah.
just the
Be
science.
like,
It's not real.
be like, let me just
That's
drop
it.
my degrees real fast
You
and be
know,
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
just,
This is
it's
the
fine.
science. Yeah.
I love
I
this.
love
Now
it.
I can
Okay.
say, be like, my friend, the astrophysicist said.
I know. Shana's like, well,
Well,
scientifically, it's not.
okay. I was like,
Even
go follow
within
this person.
even within the own like astrology's own rules and how again I haven't looked too much into it, but
Mhm.
from my fellow astrophysicists who have gotten into this to online debates with people in astrology,
Hmm.
apparently like the system for how it works is not even like consistent. Like the system it was based off of, like the signs are like misaligned or whatever. So
Mm.
whatever characteristics or whatever apply to like a certain sign is actually not right and they should be shifted. And
Mhm.
so people are like using an outdated system of astrology to judge
Yeah.
people by. And so
Yeah.
not only is it not actual science or not actually real, but your own fucking system.
That's the you're like, these aren't actually your traits.
Literally, you're not actually this sign, you're this sign. Like,
Look, that's how those
it's
magazines are
so,
able to recycle the same
Yep.
advice that they
it's,
give. They
yes,
just
it's
Yes.
rotate it.
Like
And it'd be
you
like,
hilarious.
see
that's
it on the meme pages too. Like all of a sudden I'll
yeah,
see one characteristic, a couple months later I'll see it just on a
it's the
different
same
one. And
thing.
I'm like,
Yeah.
you just said
Yeah.
this about this one, and now you're saying it about this one. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Somebody who is listening to this just threw their book like across the
Yeah.
room hearing this. So
Jesus. Their whole
you're welcome.
personality is made up for them being a
Gone.
Scorpio. And now
Okay.
they're Sag. And that it's not even real.
That's
So
so funny. Wow.
Right.
I, I love it.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, y'all, you're welcome for this today, and I hope you learned something. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show, but you know we would never leave you without giving shout outs to our faves. My shout out this week goes to the Black Trans Masc Collective, which is rooted in resilience and building meaningful community. They've built for a wide variety of blast masks, presenting people to come together to learn, love, and be held. They've had pool parties, they've had picnics, they've gone on a float trip.
Mhm.
They're doing stuff. They're just getting started. It's great. They're based in the Bay Area. Check them out at Black Trans Masc Collective on IG.
All right, my shout out is to Garbage Humans, which is a queer owned jewelry and accessory brand. You can follow and support them on IG at garbage_humans.
My shout out is Made It Through the Struggle or MITS. It's a clothing brand ran by a stud from Southside Chicago that I actually met while I was there. And I brought some of her stuff. So I have a big cap collection. I love it. So she makes a lot of
Love
caps.
them.
This one's velvet. She makes hoodies, sweat sets, all that kind of stuff. But what I really love and appreciate about the brand is that what it stands for, made it through the struggle. So, don't want to get too much into her personal story, but she is open about like the motivation for the brand being her personal mental health struggles. And that really touched me. It resonated with me. I literally found her just walking by the street and she was like selling her stuff on the street. And caught my eye, and we just built a connection there over the years. And so every time I saw her, I stopped by. I tried to buy something when I could. And I just really care about that kind of like community building.
Mhm.
So you can find her at MITS, MITTS 217 on Instagram.
Love that.
All right. And then where can everybody follow and support you?
The Astro Stud on all platforms. Main one right now is Instagram. So that's _Astro_Stud.
Love it. Kihana, thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you for the content that you create and the intentionality behind it, because you are literally like expanding universes. Like it's really cool to
Yep.
see, so, and just the different topics that you do cover.
Yeah.
So thank
The
you for
Unsung
your
Heroes is
content.
my favorite right now.
Love that.
Oh,
And
I'm loving
yeah.
that.
Sins and
Yeah.
Science. And yeah, there's a lot of just good content. Like it's just, yeah, you are such a effective communicator, and
Thank
just
you.
we have more people who look like us. So thank you so much for joining. We were like so happy to have you on, and thanks for always supporting us. You've always
Oh,
been
yeah.
very supportive of us.
No,
and
yeah, I was gonna say
all
right
that,
back
so.
at you. I love what you guys do. I love the space that you've created, the people you bring on. So I feel very honored to be here with you guys and
We're
have
honored to
this
have
conversation.
you. And you got to come
Yes.
back.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Please, anytime.
and we got it.
It's
So
recorded.
we
So
got to
that's a
record it.
contract.
It's
Can't get out of it. Thank you so much.
yeah, we got
Thank you
it.
for
We
that.
got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, perfect. Well,
This
this was
was
such a
great.
great
Thank you so
time.
much. Yeah.
Thank you, Kihana, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
Can we talk about things? I'm sorry that I'm